not talking about little mom and pop companies that have one or two pieces of equipment. We're talking about companies that have hundreds of buses who are just going out of business like that. They spent 50 years building this company and now they're just gone.
Yeah, as if they're meaningless. And so it's really like I said, it's unfortunate. This thing is going to be like a domino effect. And so it seems like, oh, it's nothing to the people who are in charge of aiding, these different industries and the essential workers. But just to be honest, we are really, as an economy, I believe hanging on by.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Theodore Campbell and Bianca. And we are Unadulterated You, coming back with another video. Today, we want to talk about, we know how the coronavirus came in and how it's affecting a lot of different businesses and different industries out here. But I think there's certain businesses that's probably affected a little more than others. One, this is not a particularly industry, but just a segment of type of, I guess you would label it an area like hospitality. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of business that you would consider like in the hospitality business have been affected the most. You got your restaurants and stuff like that. What do you say about that, different businesses?
Yeah, well, naturally all the businesses have been affected, but mostly people who serve in the hospitality industry, such as, like you said, the restaurants. We're going to be talking specifically about the bus industry and even the airline industry. The different ones that have been hit, or impacted from greatest to least is what we're kind of going to skim over, because even within the industry, hospitality is what they call the little people. But we need, us all little people to keep the economy, the country afloat. And so really, these people have gone underappreciated. It's just really unfortunate because even when, people were rewarded unemployment benefits, for instance, people were the essential workers were not necessarily rewarded unless their individual company decided to do so. But by the government, they were not rewarded. And so, but still charged with going to work and being put in danger and putting their families in danger, of getting sick, but not being compensated for that. And so it was somewhat of a slap in the face. Now, does that mean that people who received unemployment didn't need it or didn't deserve it? No, not at all. But they should have went across the board to aid everyone impacted, because it was totally unfair. And so when you go into the bus industry, I just think about the airline industry getting a payout or getting a buyout, or what do they call it when the government gives them money?
The bailout, yeah.
Not the bailout, but the bus industry, so-called little people in the transportation realm. What do they get?
Well, I'm glad that when you said in the beginning, you mentioned service, because it is the service industry. And pretty much these people are on the front line. They're the ones that have to go out. They're the ones who's doing the restaurant and, serving people, mm-hmm. Even while I know a lot of people complained about being home, but these people had to go out there and kind of sort of risk their lives, if you really think about it. And all these different industries suffered. But the reason why I know I wanted to talk about the bus industry is because for people who don't know me, as far as other than these videos we do, I drove charter buses for, I would say, about 8 years. Mm-hmm. So it holds a very special place in my heart. I'm a second generation bus driver. My dad drove buses, and it definitely. I'm even wearing my ABC company shirt. I wore that on purpose. They gave that to me as a gift. Shout out to them. They're one of the largest distributors for motor coaches in North America. Mm-hmm. So They even gave me a hat. I was gonna wear it, but my head's too big, so maybe they'll give me another one. But yeah, um, it's amazing how a lot of industries are suffering because of COVID-19 and what's going on, but some a little more than others. Like you mentioned, the airlines, I think Amtrak, like with the trains and stuff, they're suffering, but they're getting bailouts from the government.
Mm-hmm.
But what I notice is, and I'm glad that you said the little guy, the bus industry is kind of the smaller entity as far as transportation. You think of trucking. Trucking is probably one of the hugest, because it's $1 billion industry. It's what keeps goods going all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Airlines, I don't know where they would fit with trucking, but they're huge. They got a bailout. I believe the cruise ships got a bailout as well, but nobody came to the aid of the bus industry at all, which is amazing, because the bus industry is usually always the industry that saves everybody else.
If I can, just if you think about it, it's again the little people against the big people, because or the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. The bus industry actually buses those people who are less fortunate, who cannot afford a plane ticket or any other means of transportation, if you think about it. And so a lot of times people get together, group together, and put in the money to be able to afford maybe a group trip or some things of that nature. Not to mention, other companies, or like you talk about the team sometimes having buses and stuff, but I'm sure they're secure. So it's again back to the little people who are not, or who are suffering, because
Exactly.
if there aren't any buses, then, they can't travel at their so-called leisure. And they, like I said, they cannot afford plane tickets and things of that nature. So it's just like, leave them out. Don't worry about them. Just let them be. And so
Exactly.
really, and not even just to travel for fun. People need to travel for many different reasons. And so it's really unfortunate that, that resource is diminishing when it comes to coronavirus and, the economy that is today our reality.
Exactly. And the crazy part is, this pandemic is pretty much something we would can be considered a dangerous situation for not only the nation, but the world. But the buses have been pretty much saving grace for a lot of dangerous situations for other people. Mm-hmm. Like when you have situations with FEMA, where say a hurricane happened or a flood, the bus is always swoop in to come save the people, get them out of that situation in large groups and move them to a safe place. So now where the tables are turned and the bus industry is looking for some aid or some help, it's like they're getting the total cold shoulder. Again, it's almost like the little guy syndrome, like what you just said.
Yeah, it's just a representation of the bigger picture of, the little guy against, people, the big guy. People or really the government is so much more considerate of those who are more well established for some odd reason. When really, if you would aid the people who are on the bottom, then the economy, I believe, would flourish much greater. And so totally inconsiderate. But one thing we know for sure is though that even though they have not come to their aid, eventually they're gonna have to, because when the little guy isn't available to do, those small or the so-called small jobs, which are really big, then guess what? Everybody's gonna begin to suffer. I mean, we'll see. Even like you mentioned, trucking. I mean, if there's no resources available for the trucking industry, then our resources as far as simple things as toilet paper and your daily needs won't be met. So it's going to have to be where they come around and do something about it. It's just unfortunate that they're not, on the top of the list. Or let's just say we, because like I said, the little people against the bigger people. And my heart goes out to those essential workers who have been working the whole time through, and many of them have not been rewarded, or, and yes, I do think it should be a reward for it. And many of them have not been compensated for all that they put in the name of keeping this economy afloat.
Yeah. Like you said, I do agree that something eventually will happen for them. But my concern is how many casualties will they be before that actually happens? Because I would say around February or March is when they pretty much said that this was going to be a pandemic and they was going to shut things down. I can't even tell you how many bus companies I've heard have gone out of business from March. Yeah, from March until now, which is November. And what people don't understand is for the motor coach industry, well, I'm not driving it now, but our biggest season for our heaviest time as far as travel was the summer. That's the time they was able to make revenue for the year, and whatever, was not in the summer was just extra. But this is a whole year we went where there was no summer revenue for these companies at all. So we're talking about big name companies. I heard a company named Lakefront. They're huge, man. You're not talking about little mom and papa companies that have one or two pieces of equipment. We're talking about companies that have hundreds of buses who are just going out of business like that. They spent 50 years building this company and now they're just gone.
Yeah, as if they're meaningless. And so it's really like I said, it's unfortunate. This thing is going to be like a domino effect. And so it seems like, oh, it's nothing to the people who are in charge of aiding, these different industries and the essential workers. But just to be honest, we are really, as an economy, I believe hanging on by the skin of our teeth. And so it's going to trickle. It's already down. So I would say it's going to trickle up. It's going to hit the top of things. Even now, I think things are really and honestly being kept under wraps, the reality of it from us, because there's no way that things are going afloat with the type of neglect that's been present. There's no way.
I'm glad that you said showing the reality, because it's funny how social media and the news show what they want to show. They display what they want to display, because I forgot the actual date, but it was a couple months ago. The actual bus industry, pretty much thousands of buses from all over the nation traveled to Washington, D.C. and picketed in front of the White House. And it's amazing how this never hit anybody's radar. It wasn't on the news. Even with the situation we talked about before with the prayer march.
Yeah.
That's another big deal that it seems like the news and social media just lets slide under the rug or under the radar.
That touches on a post that I had. It was a story that I had shared, and I guess I could talk about it now. It was just a quote from Malcolm X, and it says, "The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power, because they control the minds of the masses." That was Malcolm X who said that. But the media does ultimately control the minds of the masses. Even me, if we can transition a little bit, when I do present a thought to people about, what's going on now. Oh, what news have you been watching? They automatically assume, it's not news necessarily. Maybe I read something, but they're automatically assuming that something is influencing you left or right. So, because that's the power that it has. So I understand someone assuming, what have you been watching? Or you must be watching Fox News. You must be watching CNN. Because, it's so funny because you really can tell what people are taking in just by what they are watching. Or you can kind of tell what they're watching by what they're telling you. I don't know what this is going on. But, yeah, it's a shame that we are not given the liberty to know the full reality of things. And it's a shame that, because we can't be everywhere, but the media is everywhere. It's a shame that they still won't give us that, I'll say, justice of knowing what's real. instead of just feeding us what they want to feed us. Then, I think that everybody would be more compassionate towards something like motor coach, busing industry, because, they would recognize, hey, this impacts me. This impacts generations to come. Actually, if that dissolves, then, what opportunities, or if that dissolves and other things dissolve, what opportunities will be available to my children?
Exactly.
Children's children. Like, it's not okay.
I'm glad you said that, because people who are watching this, they probably like, well, how does that affect me? My job is good. I work from home. Well, just think of that industry. Maybe there's somebody from your family that works for that company or whatever. I was just watching a video a couple weeks ago. The actual company was Holiday Tours. They're out of North Carolina. They have 80 buses. Mm-hmm. They usually run at least 50 to 70 buses, sometimes full capacity, 80 buses a day on the road. They currently have 4 buses running on the road.
4 from 80?
Yeah, so you do the math. How many buses are sitting in the yard right now?
It's so ridiculous. And all these, like I said, all these different opportunities kind of dwindling away. Mm-hmm. What's going to be in 5 years available to those who don't choose to go to school per se? Because actually, when you go to school, there aren't many opportunities available to you either to choose from. So just think about it. It's very basic or very obvious how it could impact everybody. That's why when you spoke about wanting to talk about this issue, specifically the bus industry, I definitely could relate and definitely wanted to talk about it. And I also want to go back to hospitality in general. So you go to a restaurant or you go to the Dollar General and you're purchasing items. I know for sure paper towel and tissue has gone up. Cleaning items have gone up. The pricing has. Even at the restaurants, the pricing of different things have gone up. But guess what's not going up?
The pay, the job opportunities.
Such a slap in the face, sometimes they just go up on the stuff just because they can, not because it costs to bring it in. So then you're not going to pay these people who are struggling to even make it to work. And in order to provide in any sense for their family, you're not going to, as a company, an individual company who likely receives funding from the government, you're not going to up their pay. Mm-hmm. It's just inconsiderate, if I have a multi-million-dollar company and I don't consider the people who are working for me, who are keeping my company afloat, like I said, it's just going to trickle up. You just wait and see. I feel like, it just feels like a disaster waiting to happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, they keep talking about this second stimulus check. I mean, how long does it take to? It's funny how the people that's negotiating this are the people who don't need it.
The people who don't need it and in turn don't care. Now, I can convince you that I care with my words all day long, but my actions are what will show. There's no way that one stimulus check, and this is the 11th month of the year, going into the 12th month, one stimulus check is going to keep any individual family afloat.
Exactly.
It's not reality. And the fact is that people's jobs have been impacted. People have lost their jobs. Back to the busing industry. If the company closed, that means those people lost their job. And
exactly.
So maybe they were able to receive unemployment. A lot of times not. So what do we do with that? These are people who have the ability to aid, everyone, but they choose not to. But just to speak as if they care and then not demonstrate it at all.
Exactly, because you figure 80 buses are sitting, you have to almost triple that number, because I think they said they had 250 employees. Because you got to remember, you got bus drivers, you got dispatchers, you got cleaners, you got mechanics.
You see how many?
So they said out of 250, not to cut you off, but just to show people how bad that number is, you go from employing 250, they said they are down to 8 people working for the company right now.
8 people.
8 people out of 250.
Let me tell you something. A lot of times when they get down like that, those 8 people are performing multiple job duties.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Even worse, can they pay them what they deserve? I doubt it. And so
No,
it's just like no consideration. It's not. Sometimes it's not the company. Yes, it is the economy that's affecting it, but the government did have an ability, or even they talk about all this Democrat, Republican stuff, all this debating and stuff they go through when they're trying to pass this or that. I mean, like, can't you just see through? It's really black and white that people need assistance, you know. And these aren't people
absolutely.
who have always received assistance. These aren't people
Mhm.
who, these are working people, people who are used to working, people who want to provide for their families outside of government assistance. But considering the fact that you guys have the power to do something in this pandemic, you know, and you don't, it just really speaks volumes about who's really for you anyway. And another post, since we're here, I made a post and I was saying, like, are you looking for a system to save you that was set up to enslave you, really? And it is enslavement to underpay people, to be
Mhm.
okay with the people being underpaid, surviving off a little of nothing. And you expect this system to save you when they've proven that they won't? You know, hopefully you guys, if you've gone through something like this, or if you're dealing with this in your job specifically, hopefully you guys can just put your trust in God, because that's who your real provider will be. That's who is going to be able to deliver you, or really it's already been done. So just trust in Him that you will come out of this situation in a better light, just to be honest, because I think the system is a flop.
Absolutely. But we just wanted to shed some light on it. I mean, like, there's so many industries being affected by this, but I just took that as a personal thing because it's something that I did, and I'm knowledgeable of it. So I can explain exactly how crucial it is. So
Yeah.
we appreciate you taking the time to watch this video.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you guys again for watching, for your support. Anybody that's watching, if you have any particular topic or subject you would like us to speak on, feel free to email us at unadulteratedU@gmail.com, or just put it in the comments if you could relate to the topic that we just spoke on, or anything that you have that you want to comment on. Feel free to just comment and let us know. Follow us at unadulterated it's on Instagram. And that's it,
Mhm.
guys. Until next time.
We check y'all next time. We'll see you later.